Good morning. As you heard, my name is Diane DiDonato, and my husband and I have been coming to this church and have been members for well over a year. At the last, my mother and our little son, Roman, and my sister and my nieces were all here. But my mom had to take Roman home because it's nap time, and so she's not able to join us, nor is Roman. But my father is here, and my wonderful husband. So I'm here to visit with you today about my passion for prayer and to tell you some things that I've learned about prayer through a series of events that have happened to me. First, I want to step back and give you a little background so you can see where my passion for prayer comes from. I was raised in a Christian church-going home. I had a cornerstone of faith in the Lord. Growing up, my family said dinner time and bedtime prayers, just as you heard in the children's sermon. I believe that God heard my prayer, but I really hadn't put much thought into the powerful impact that prayer could have. That all changed a number of years ago. My life was drastically altered the night of June 25th, 2004, when I was in a motor vehicle crash. The driver of another car was consecutively passing two other cars and was therefore in my lane of traffic. We were hit head on. We were on motorcycles, my friends and I, and we were hit head on with the car going about 90 to 100 miles an hour. That night drastically changed my life in a number of ways that I will tell you about. To give you a brief snapshot of my medical condition, because this all plays into the power of prayer for me, but to give you a brief snapshot so you can appreciate the power of prayer, I was life-flighted to Akron City Hospital, where I was there for a total of 99 days. I wasn't on a day-to-day life status. No, I was on an hour-to-hour life status for 10 days, and then finally graduated to a day-to-day life status for an additional month. I was in Trauma 1 intensive care unit for 42 days, and I was in different stages of a coma for 45. I was predicted by doctors to be left a quadriplegic, unable to communicate, and I would certainly be in a vegetative state in a nursing home for the rest of my life. Upon impact at the accident, my heart and my aorta was severed. The only thing knit together was a thin membrane. My trauma heart surgeon had told my parents when they arrived at the hospital shortly before my emergency open heart surgery that he didn't understand why I was still alive, considering the severed aorta that only has a 1% chance of survival, along with my dozens and dozens of other broken bones and severed body parts and punctured body parts. He said, Diane shouldn't even be at this hospital. She should have been dead at the scene. The only thing he had to explain why I was still alive was miraculous intervention. And I don't know about you, if you've ever had a chance to meet a Trauma 1 heart surgeon. Hopefully you haven't. But deservingly so, they take credit for saving a lot of people's lives, which they do. And for the surgeon to say that he had no explanation why I was still alive, besides miraculous intervention, that carries a lot of weight with me. Even a number of ICU nurses had told my parents that I could have and I should have died on about 7 different occasions. I had a ventilator apparatus in my trachea. I had a feeding tube. I had multiple fixators attached to my bones, and if you've never seen somebody with a fixator, they're metal that sticks out of your body because your bones are just too shattered to, put in a typical cast. I had so many monitors hooked up to me in my ICU room. My family kind of jokes, but not really, that it was kind of like walking into a NASA control room because there were so many beeps and things going on and things being monitored. I lay dormant for so long that every muscle in my body had basically, become useless. I had to be taught the basic functions of life all over again, such as how to breathe on my own, because I was hooked up to a ventilator for so long, and I had a trachea, or a trach. I had to learn to eat again. I had to learn to drink. I had to learn to sit up and hold my head up straight, because it would just keep, falling from side to side. I was in a wheelchair for months, and then a walker, and then a cane. And then a year later, I had to do it all over again because I had a pelvis reconstruction surgery in Chicago. That was 16-hour surgery. So I had to do it all over again. In total, I've endured 30 plus surgeries. I kind of kept keeping track after 30. So I had 30 plus surgeries that had been related to the accident. So you may ask from time to time, does prayer work? Well, I would not be standing here if it didn't, and I am assured of that. I want to visit with you today about what I've learned about prayer. First, prayer should be your first line of defense when you face a crisis, not your last, when nothing else you seem to think of works or nothing else you've tried works. For example, after my parents received that dreaded late-night call to hurry to Akron Children's Hospital, upon hanging up the phone, my father said to my mother that they needed to pray first. And so they literally got on their knees and they prayed before they even considered leaving for the hospital. That's a great way to prayer being your very first line of defense when you face troubles in your life. There are 5 aspects that I've learned about prayer that anyone can use when facing life's ups and downs. First, tell God how you feel. In prayer, of course. Job 22, verse 27 says, "Thou shalt make thy prayer unto him, and he shall hear thee." That's reassuring to know that God hears you when you pray to him. Second, ask God for what you need. Matthew 7, verse 7 through 8 says, "Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened." Third, praise God in spite of tragedies that you might be facing. Psalm 28, verse 6 through 7 says, "Praise be to the Lord, for he has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts him, and I am helped. My heart leaps for joy, and I will give him thanks in song." Fourth, ask God for strength and help. Isaiah 40, verse 31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." And fifth, trust in God's will. This is probably one of the hardest things for us as humans to do, because if you're like me, you like to kind of control everything. No smile allowed, thank you very much. But trust in God's will, not your will. Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not on your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." I adamantly attribute my miraculous healing to God. He obviously did not cause the crash to happen. and I asked in my hospital room so many times, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? Why do bad things happen to good people? And forget that one of the many ministers or pastors or reverends that came to visit me, I think he explained it best when he said that God has allowed for us to have free wills. He doesn't have everybody on puppet strings controlling every single move that we make or every single decision that we make. He didn't control the free will of the driver of the car that night to make the decisions that he made. But God was there at the accident. He was there to quickly carry me in his hands, my broken body and spirit in his hands. And he followed me to the hospital, and he blessed me with top-rated surgeons and nurses. He was present in every single one of those 30-plus surgeries, guiding the surgeon's hands. And he was evident in my hospital room and in my home recovery. So trust in the Lord's protection. My grandmother told my mother of a particular song when she heard upon my condition. My family read this psalm many, many times while I was hospitalized. Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your comings and goings, both now and forevermore. I've learned through this challenge another thing, an important thing, an important life lesson that I think we all can apply, because nobody's life goes without problem or problems of some sort. When problems happen or tragedy, hopefully you don't face tragedy, but when crisis arrives in your life, there are two paths that you can take. One being a very dark path that focuses on what you've lost, what you don't have anymore, how the world and God owes you. Or you can choose the path of light and hope. The path that focuses on what you do have left and the blessings that still surround you. Sure, it's easier to follow the dark path, and there are times when you need reminded of your blessings, either by yourself, through the Holy Spirit, or by friends and family that are around you. It isn't always easy to follow this path. There may be times in life when it's very unfair and challenging, and it's difficult to remember the blessings around you. That's when you need to trust in the Lord and ask for his strength to help you through it and guide you. Prayer is one of the most powerful tools that God gave us. Prayer doesn't have to be eloquent or savvy or intellectual sounding. No, it just needs to be heartfelt. Prayer will lighten your burden, calm your spirit, renew your trust. Prayer sustains you when you feel weak, to a sense of comfort in the midst of life's ups and downs. As I faced the many, many struggles of a very long recovery, I knew God had the power to just command and touch me and heal me instantly. You know, I grew up learning about all those stories in the Bible about how Jesus had miraculous power and would heal people. And I wondered, why wasn't I worth it? Why didn't he do that for me? But looking back now, I can clearly see that my faith journey would not be nearly as strong had he done that. or had he answered my prayer immediately with what I wanted. He knew what was in my best interest. Jesus said, "Here on earth you will have many trials." Have one problem, and when that gets resolved, another one just comes to slide right in, right behind it sometimes. We're all human. Some of the most life-enriching experiences will come from your darkest moments. When your heart is broken, when you feel abandoned, when you're out of options, when your pain level goes through the roof. That's when you need to turn to God. Well, you need to turn to God before that. He needs to be your first option. But that's when you learn to pray honest to God prayers. You don't have time or energy for superficial ones that sound pretty or sound like this fantastic author wrote them. Just pray to God. Just be honest and tell him what you feel. No matter how short the prayer is or how simple your prayer is, it doesn't matter to God. He just wants to hear from you. He wants to know your feelings. He wants to know your thoughts. He wants to help you. God sees opportunities for blessings when you're going through troubles. And I know it can be hard to see or think that anything positive could ever happen in some of the situations that you might be facing. Like, what good could possibly come from this? And I thought that. There were moments. But where I am today, oh my goodness, I couldn't even dream my life would be so good. I got to feel the love of my family and friends in an astronomical amount. I've, since the accident and recovery, met and married my wonderful husband, and 7 months ago, we welcomed a healthy baby boy. And I know it's because I totally gave 100% of my life and my future to God. And I said, I don't know what else to do. There's nothing else I can do. This is out of my hands, and I'm trusting you that you will make this better. I'm trusting you that you will heal things, and you will lead me down a path that is beyond my dreams. And he did. Sometimes God answers prayers immediately, and sometimes it takes more persistence. And sometimes the answer to your prayer is not what your original request was. But be assured that prayers are always, always answered according to God's will, not necessarily your will. My wish for you is to remember that God is always walking shoulder to shoulder with you in times of trouble. When you pray, it's like God has his arms around you, comforting you and strengthening you so that you are enabled to face life's hardships. The last hymn that we are going to sing today is close to my heart. Even in the last state of my coma, when I appeared to be conscious and I appeared to be communicating in some sort, but I really wasn't consciously there. Like I really wasn't out of that last stage of my coma. But my point is that even then, I know that God was close to my heart, because there were a number of times that visitors of my hospital room would ask me if I wanted them to sing a song. And you would think that's them to sing a popular song of the time or something that, I was very, very familiar with. But no, I always requested, every time, Amazing Grace. And I didn't have a strong tie to that song per se before the accident, and I was actually kind of surprised when I did finally come out of my coma and my mom had told me that I had been requesting that song. To this day, I could hardly sing the song without holding back tears, because it is absolutely no coincidence at all that the message in that song is very, very reflective of my experience and God's amazing grace upon me. I was blind to the power of prayer, and now I see. In closing, please remember that God is waiting to hear from you. He already has your blessings wrapped up like gifts and is just waiting to give them to you. Don't be afraid or reluctant to tell your Father in heaven for what you need and ask him for what you need, no matter how big or small the request. Just ask with the confidence that you know he can and he will answer every one of your prayers according to his will. Thank you.